What is the most ridiculous thing you have overheard somebody say? On the shuttle bus to campus, he keeps saying he loves me more than I love him. It's ridiculous. Well, you are cheating on him. He doesn't know that, though, so it's not fair. Why didn't Bush stop Katrina? Overheard a girl say this at school in the days after the hurricane. I imagine she hoped that President Bush would stand on the beach in Louisiana, wielding his executive staff of power, and shouting "You'll shall not pass" as the hurricane roars in angry defiance and turns back its course in the face of such ethereal power. A friend of mine once described his music tastes as stuff that could be played at Starbucks, but has not yet been played at Starbucks. I don't like that new guy. He looks prejudiced. But, that's... A teenager on the bus once said that if your hair is dyed when you get pregnant you can pass that color onto your child. Using teenagers is cheating. The other day while in the public toilets, "Alright mate, how are things?" I would shake your hand but you got a big dig in it. My roommate told me the other day that the eggs are hatching. I was confused and asked for an explanation. He said they filled Beanie Babies with spider eggs. That's what those white gonads are inside them. Apparently there was one of those stupid articles going around on Facebook saying that the old Beanie Babies were filled with spider eggs and are starting to hatch after all of these years. He full on believed it. This guy I used to work with was bragging about how quickly he walked to work, 12 miles in 1 hour. He was an ass clone. Would probably be when I was shadowing a coworker at my job when I first started. They were talking to a client who was having trouble with the software and eventually got to the point where my coworker asked if they could send a screenshot. That's when I heard the client say, "Can I fax you a screenshot?" This was not a question of if it was possible but instead a question of if this would suffice for my coworker. My coworker gave me a WTF kind of look and said that would be fine. Lo and behold, we received a fax of a screenshot shortly after that. I was working in the library one day in high school, and there were these two girls sitting behind me working on the computer. I assumed they were working on a Spanish assignment. Anyway, I overhear one of them ask the other for a large, Spanish-speaking country. I turn around and tell them that Mexico is a good choice, and the most obvious one, I would think. In response, one of the girls looks at me and says they don't speak Spanish there, they speak Mexican. Edit, as a few people have pointed out, Spain probably should have been the most obvious one. I heard one man ask the captain of a sunset sailboat, "How many sunset tours do you do a day?" The captain just kinda looked at him all weird and the man said, "Oh, right," and walked away slowly. I laughed and made a comment to the captain about how silly that question was. He just nonchalantly said, "You would be surprised how often I'm asked that." Yes, this was in Florida. I was in an economics class and the discussion was about improving or growing the labor force within the United States, and some girl in front of me stated, "We should reinstate the draft so that more men are out of the labor force and therefore more women can enter." The professor, who normally enjoys playing devil's advocate and entertaining amusing ideas, was simply shocked at the stupidity. TL. Dr. Girl says more men should be forced to go to war so she can get a job. I was working in a call center trying to help this guy sign into an account of his, and he kept telling me, "Your stupid site isn't working." After probably around 15 minutes, I asked him what internet browser he is using, thinking maybe it is an outdated version of IE or something. He then in a totally serious voice says, "Wait. Does my computer have to be on for me to access the internet?" You know how we see all these foreign countries on TV on the news? Do they see us? To heard a girl say this to her friends in the lift at university. Her friends all acted like she'd just asked the deepest, most philosophical question ever. After they got off at their floor, everyone else in the lift burst out laughing. In Walmart, I overheard the phone conversation of a young, around 18-ish, girl who had a small baby with her. She told the person on the phone, "Asshole cheated on me with a bunch of skanks. I'm not even sure this baby is mine. I need a paternity test." A friend criticizing a Chinese restaurant. I mean, that restaurant was so bad. I couldn't even see if there was hair on the floor. You know what I mean? No. I do not know what you mean. Are you concerned that it was too dark, or just too dark to look for hair on the floor? Is floor hair level your typical gauge of restaurant quality? Nothing about your question is normal. You'll find no consensus from me or anyone else, ever, unless they are under the influence of hallucinogens. This is what I would have replied at the time, but the man's strange jabbering put my brain into some kind of goddamned feedback loop, which took me a couple minutes to break. Sitting in a bistro type cafe at lunch, I heard, "My personal relationship with Christ really helped me realize the Escalade was the right choice." I looked and yes, it was a table full of middle-aged women with shopping bags, drinking white wine. The speaker even had a haircut. This is going back a while, but I was in the lunch line in high school, kind of a sheltered suburb high school, and two girls were talking in front of me. I didn't hear what led up to it, but one said, with a tone of authority in her voice, "No, when it's a boy he's gay, when it's a girl she's bi." The implication seemed to be that there was no such thing as a gay female, and no such thing as a bisexual male. The other girl said, "Oh, like she had just learned something useful." My girlfriend and I once overheard a guy say to his friends, "I got pepper sprayed 2 nights in a row this weekend, so you know I was doing something right." When I had my college apt, I was working 36 hours a week and taking a full load of courses. For whatever reason, the vent between the neighbor's bathroom upstairs and ours allowed for plenty of sound travel. I was taking a crap one day, and I had to sit there and listen to this girl bitch about how the brand ducking new car her dad gave her for her birthday was the wrong color BMW. I shit you not. She was hissed about the ducking color of her free $50 K plus car. This is kinda late to the party, but my friendies, not the brightest. Definitely keeps things interesting though. For example, me, "Oh that's right, there's a lunar eclipse tonight." Friend, "Oh yeah, good thing I'm not pregnant anymore or I'd have to put on a red dress." Me, "What?" Friend, "Yeah, the rays from the blood moon can affect your baby and do things like turning them gay. So you have to wear a red dress to protect yourself from it." It's simple really, you heat the seawater to 100 C. When all of the water evaporates, then you continue heating the salt to 1500 C, at which point the sodium chloride and other salts present will also evaporate. You then run the gas mixture across platinum surfaces that are at a temperature of like 500 C, on which the salts will solidify, leaving only a stream of relatively pure superheated steam. Then you just run the steam through a heat exchanger until it condenses, and boom. Pure water. Middle school me on the bus. 2 girls in the seat behind me are talking about a chemistry test. Girl 1, "This test is going to be brutal." Girl 2, "I love Jurassic Park." There wasn't even a pause in the conversation. Do you think Brazilians celebrate Christmas? Yeah, probably, but it's probably on a different day. Yeah, that makes sense. This guy at my boarding school was chock full of them. He would say the most insane bullshit completely straight-faced and actually expect us to believe it. Think Frankie Grant from Big Brother. He claimed to be a shapper shifter and was obsessed with wolves. His wall was completely covered in pictures of wolves he cut out from several wolf-themed calendars. He fully committed in orientation week to telling everyone that he would turn into a wolf whenever there was a full moon and that he would have to be alone in his room on those nights for our safety. He was trying to get into someone's dorm room one time and threatened to just shapper shift into water and go under the doorway. It honestly just became a game to let him keep going and ask him questions to see how deep of a hole he would dig for himself. Because not only would he say these lies, he would remember them. They became part of his mythology and he would have to juggle these falsities and call back old lies to make them seem believable. Before I continue, I want to stress something very important. We were all 16, 17, 18 years old at this time. One time we were playing pool in the rec room and talking about how there have been some people born allergic to water and how they pretty much die right after being born. Dummy chimes in with, "I'm allergic to water," after leading him on to keep going. He went, "Yeah, if I drink a bottle of water, I'll throw up for a couple of hours. For the rest of the year, I took relish in catching him at lunch drinking water and asking him if he'd be okay. Yeah, I've been feeling a lot better lately, so I think I can cheat a little today. The best part is that there was a female equivalent at the school and I heard them talking in the computer lab and they were crafting the greatest sci-fi fantasy story of all time. He was telling her about how he learned that he was a shapeshifter when he was in 4th grade, and she was regaling him with stories of how she was royalty and that her family took their Learjet to England during Labor Day weekend to have tea with the Queen. I just can't. Overheard 2 employees talking at Starbucks. It's like all we do here is make coffee. Just yesterday I heard a woman at my work ask what's the capital of Amsterdam. Her friend followed up with pretty sure it's Copenhagen. She wrote answer down on something with a confident look on her face. Overheard one of my friend's mom while gaming and on Skype, and she told him pick up all these damn acorns in the backyard. I don't want another tree growing in my yard. She literally made him spend 3 hours outside picking up every single acorn in his backyard. One of my managers was showing baby pictures to another. Manager 1. I thought you had a girl. Manager 2. Yes, she's a girl. Manager 1. Oh, but she's not wearing pink. I was eating sushi with my wife when I overhear a man trying to explain his fantastic idea to his group of friends. He thought that gravity was instantaneous. So because it was instantaneous, it could be used to instantly communicate across the world using gravity sensors. He said it was like when there are 2 brothers and one dies, the other instantly knows when it happens due to some psychic force. I made eye contact with the man across from me, and we both shook our heads at the monumental stupidity we had just witnessed. My wife and I were laughing as the idiot left with his group. In passing, he said Green Lantern here knows what I am talking about because I was wearing a GL shirt. Though my wife told me it was rude later, I told him no one knows what he is ducking talking about. The gentleman I shared an incredulous look with earlier laughed. So this was a few years back, but I remember it well. Not quite sure on the context of the conversation, but this guy looked like a proper film villain, scar on the face, 2 mean scruffy looking dogs and dressed mainly in black. As he walked past on the phone I caught this classic bit of dialogue, yeah mate, and then after he had his ham sandwich I buried him in my back garden. To this day I have no idea what he was on about. My mum heard 2 women in a store. The first lady said she wanted to move to Australia, the other responded with that she would drive there and pay a visit. The only problem they toughed of was it would take a long time. From goddamn Europe. I once overheard one of the stupidest stories I've ever heard when I was on a field trip in my junior year. Some sophomore said the following: dude, so I lost my phone a couple weeks ago. And I knew my parents were gonna kill me because this is the 3rd iPhone I've lost this year. I was trying to figure out what to do and I came to the conclusion that I would get one of my friends to give me a black eye and I would tell my parents I got robbed. It took a couple tries, but eventually I got my friend to hit me as hard as he could in the face and my eye was totally swollen. I went home and told my parents I got mugged on my way to the train and my phone got stolen. They asked me if I was okay and I said yeah, but I feel a little lightheaded so I'm gonna lie down. They woke me up an hour later saying that the police were at the front door to file a report. I had to lie about a black guy with dreads and jean shorts who sucker punched me and took my phone when I was dazed. When it was over I went back to my room to lay down. But my parents woke me up again to tell me that detectives were now at the front door to interview me. I had to lie again, making sure I told the exact same story. Everything worked out and my parents got me a new phone a week later. The worst part about that story is that it worked. One day, I was walking down the street and saw a man walking a huge black pig on a leash. There was a small group of people standing near it oohing and ahhing, which is totally reasonable, because this was a giant pig walking down the street. I continued walking, and 2 women were standing about 10 feet away looking toward the pig. As I passed, one woman said to the other, totally seriously, "That is such a weird looking dog."